And okay, guys, sorry about that. We had a technical issue, but it seems to be sorted out now. Thank you for joining. Close all my tabs that I had open. Um, can you hear me? I can't see. Mm-mm. Can you hear you loud and clear? Thank you, Kim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't see me. It's weird. I can't see me on the, and I can hear my own echo, which is very strange. I don't know what's going on. Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. I just don't understand why I can hear my own echo. That's all. But it sounds okay for you, Kim, yeah? And Celia, and I will just go on with it. Sounds good? Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Meg. All right, let's get cracking. Let us get cracking with this. So, as always, this is not a talk, it's an initiation. Healing keeps you human, collapse makes you infinite. And as I've always said, as I always say in these in this work, in these lives that I do, if you want warm resonance, this is not your place. This is not the place. This is a collapse broadcast, a live field that separates who heard it from who felt it. No teaching, no therapy, just law. And if you have questions, you can put them in the question area, and if we get time, we'll get back to it later. The important thing to know here is that I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm here to make you clear. The Collapse broadcast is a live transmission. I name what your body already knows and your head keeps arguing with. So collapse ends what healing keeps alive. That's what we're going to speak about. You were never broken. You were conditioned to believe that safety meant staying inside the loop. Healing was mimic's first language of control. It gave you something gentle to obey. You didn't heal, you waited for permission. And collapse doesn't wait. It deletes the need for safety entirely. And the moment pain was named a teacher, which is what we do, Mimic had an altar. Mimic had its altar. You learned to honor the wound instead of erase the architecture that made it possible. You called endurance growth and sensitivity depth. But Mimic doesn't fear pain, it feeds on it. Pain keeps you rehearsing memory. Collapse ends memory. And the body that stops worshiping pain stops performing it. Mimic turned biology into testimonial. Fatigue, tension, trauma, trauma responses, each became evidence that the work was working. You were taught to interpret every twitch as wisdom, every symptom as a message. But the body under Mimic doesn't speak truth. It repeats code, and that code is Mimic. When collapse arrives, the body no longer speaks at all. It renders. quiet that gets rendered is not numbness, it's clarity. Healing introduced infinity, steps, modules, certifications, seeking. Process became the performance of progress. And the more you worked, the more mimics stabilized. Integration was just a rebranding delay, or integration was just rebranding delay as devotion. Collapse doesn't process. It ends the one who needs process. That's why true collapse feels instant. It's complete. It isn't faster work, it's no work. You learn to meet yourself with compassion, to cradle wounded parts. But every time you comforted mimic, it re-secured its authority. You mistook softness for sovereignty. Empathy towards interference is still interference. Empathy towards mimic is still mimic. Collapse is not kindness, it's correction. And law doesn't hug distortion, it deletes it. This is why so many are looping. In the paradigm of the personal development world we have now, the self-help world that we have now, it is structured to keep us looping, shifting one identity into another identity, literally like changing costumes. Mimic invented integration timelines. We don't need to integrate as codex beings. Mimic invented integration timelines so you'd never notice eternity was already available. Mimic said, be patient, trust divine timing. You translated delay as discernment and believed depth required duration. But time is mimic's most elegant leash. Collapse collapses it completely. And when mimic dies, everything that's true happens now because there's nothing left to wait for. Therapy, coaching, spirituality, they merged into one mimic cathedral. Its priests wore microphones, its tithes were invoices, its sacraments were sessions. You didn't buy healing, you funded containment. Mimic doesn't need your belief, it just needs your participation. Collapse ends the congregation completely. And when you stop paying for permission, Mimic's economy implodes. And what remains is not self-help, it's law. This is why collapse does not equal healing. Refines mimic. Collapse deletes it. Yeah, Kim, I know there's feedback. I don't know why. So I have no idea why. This is really irritating. Let's see there. Maybe that's a bit better? No. What? Yeah. I'll delete this microphone, take it off. No, it's still dodgy. Uh, I don't see another window, Meg. Do. I've only got one window. That is very strange. I've only got one window there, don't I? Yeah. Um, that is very odd.
Is something open on this?
No, it's coming from here. Shall I kill this one and go live again? Um, I will try that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this one and I'm going to go live straight away. Okay, so how do I end this one now? That's where it was. Okay, I should be okay now. I think I've figured out what the problem was. Kim, you were spot on. It sounds much better now. Yeah. Okay, I figured out what was going on. Okay. Where was I? All right, where was I? Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about something else. Where was I? I wanted to talk about something else. I was getting on to a point. I wanted to talk about that's right. I wanted to talk about what we have been doing recently in terms of the work we've been doing and why I can talk about this with such absolute clarity. Healing refines mimic, collapse deletes it. And for the first time, we actually recorded codex command through a QEEG interface. Within seconds, the neural field organized into high frequency symmetry. No entrainment stimulus, no sensor trigger, no suggestion, just law spoken through fascia. This is not belief. This is bioelectric evidence that consciousness can reorganize matter instantly. Physics calls this kind of event symmetry breaking. Codex calls it law made visible. This is neurophysiological evidence of codex in operation. The QEEG markings or recordings mark the first verifiable footprint of law converting frequency into matter. Using a 19-channel QEEG with Fourier spectral analysis, we observed global phase coherence in under 12 seconds following command. That's why I know when I say, with absolute certainty, clarity, and as law, healing refines mimic and collapse deletes it. Science named it as the God particle. We name it what it always was: proof of law. Proof that when we move as law, we bend matter. Healing comforts the wound so it can keep existing. Collapse ends the one who needs comfort. Collapse isn't particularly gentle, and it's not particularly emotional. The system you thought was breaking is simply uninstalling mimic. And I know many people have got to that border, got to that point of collapse. But because it doesn't form within the narrative that we are entrained to, we don't take the step. We don't move into it. And that's why collapse can feel barren. It's the first time sensation isn't being interpreted, only erased. And because we haven't got a language for it, because we haven't got a narrative for it, because we don't speak about it, we're not taught about it, we avoid it. And what you call pain is actually interference losing its language. Therapy teaches you to gather fragments to stitch the self back together. But every fragment you collect is mimic recycling identity. Collapse does not integrate, it terminates. There is no integration needed or required or necessary, because collapse deletes, it terminates. There are no pieces of you to unite. There is only the deletion of the mechanism that said you were ever divided in the first place. The moment integration becomes irrelevant, freedom stops being a future tense and it becomes geometry. And when the program begins to delete, the fascia roots voltage. It can burn, it can shake, it can ache. You call it emotional release, but it's data transfer. The body is not suffering, it's clearing bandwidth. It's releasing the interference from fascia. Don't decode it. Don't comfort it. Allow it to do what it was designed to do. Let the circuitry finish its rewrite, its rewiring. When mimic's memory leaves the tissue, that sensation ends, not because it's healed, but because there's nothing left to announce. Every narrative we gave to healing, the process, to integration, was mimic's insurance policy. I'm learning, I'm processing, I'm integrating. Every projection, I was hurt, injured, offended. These sentences kept you human enough to delay deletion, normal enough to stay robbed of autonomy. Collapse ends the narrator. After it, the urge to explain evaporates. And what reveals is your codex routing through your fascia to live your blueprint. And people may ask you what happened, and you will actually find there are no words. There are no stories. There is nothing to say. Because there is no identities. Because language was Mimic's operating system, and silence is law. Feeling was Mimic's navigation. It taught you that emotion equals truth, but emotion only measures identity pressure, not law. Emotion only measures identity pressure, not law, and not truth. When collapse roots, emotion no longer leads. It reports. Anger, grief, elation, they appear like sparks as Mimic shorts out. Literally. Don't interpret them. Let them discharge. And afterwards, neutrality remains and stillness reigns. That's not apathy. That's enforcement. It isn't revelation or catharsis. It's instruction issued through fascia. One clean line, spoken or silent, deletes Mimic instantly. You don't repeat it. You don't journal it. You speak it once and the field obeys. That's it. Command is not loud, it's exact. The moment Mimic tries to argue, stay silent. Silence is the second command. The body will call it calm. Mimic will call it loss. None are true. It's the first moment of non-performance. Mimic thrives on performance. Neutrality isn't a feeling. It's physics of nothing left to oppose. So don't fill it. Don't celebrate it. Let the neutrality hold you until movement reappears, not from the head, from your fascia. Unforced, unavoidable, and clean. Collapse does not repair. It removes the program that demanded repair. Healing ends when deletion begins. You were taught that your fascia held memory. That pain was trapped emotion that the body needed to release. That was Mimic mythology. The moment interference dies, this fascia stops storing and it becomes a transmission grid. Pure conductivity of law. It no longer trembles to purge, it steadies to render. And when you feel now, what you feel now isn't release. When no longer trembles to purge and steadies to render. What you feel isn't release, it's data. It's data routing through clean fiber. The body is no longer an archive like relics in a museum. It's an antenna or an antenna. In healing, the nervous system was your oracle. Every tingle a message, every calm a sign of progress. That was mimic's feedback loop that keeps orbiting. After collapse, the system stops scanning because there is nothing to scan. It doesn't read environment for safety because there's no need for safety. It routes command. There's no fight or flight. There's only enforcement. Adrenaline is not fear, it's voltage. The body is not reactive, it's responsive to law. When mimic dies, the ailments built on years, decades of on obedience, fatigue, inflammation, healing, or decay, aging, hormonal chaos, they all lose purpose. They can't exist without story because there is no story. There is no story because there are no identities. There is just your codex routing through your fascia for you to live your blueprint. The body doesn't heal them. It simply stops performing them. What used to be managed through supplements or intention disappears through deletion. No cure, no miracle, just the absence of mimic's script. That's it. Energy is no longer earned through diet, rest, or discipline. It's structural. The same voltage that once drove mimic's survival now powers codex enforcement. You wake steady, not high, not inspired, exact. The field draws from geometry, not adrenaline. And that's why post-collapse presence feels quiet, still, calm. Vitality without performance is stillness. The blueprint body doesn't age by calendar. It doesn't record hours, moons, or cycles because time was mimic's biological leash. Replication of decay through or to prove mortality. When the program ends, the clock dissolves. Cells regenerate according to law, not schedule. Skin, breath, recovery, all obey immediacy. That's not anti-aging. This is deletion. This is time deletion. After collapse, every movement becomes command. Posture, tone, gaze, each individually and collectively are broadcast consequence. You no longer protect your energy, you are the structure others reorganize around. And the body stops signaling safety. It becomes the pressure that ends distortion. And presence is no longer comfort, it's architecture. The trilogy of being, body, being, and planet, locks into function. The body receives, the being directs, and planet amplifies. Every command, every law. No delay, no interpretation, no feedback loop. You speak. Law roots through fascia into air. You move. The planet adjusts. You rest, and the field recalibrates. The human system becomes codex relay. And biology doesn't serve consciousness, it enforces it. What science called the Higgs particle, the God particle, wasn't discovery, it was admission. They found the residue of law. Because when frequency condenses into form, matter appears. That's what codex does consciously. In physics, they saw it once at CERN. In our work, we record it every time the body obeys command. The QEEG coherence we captured is that same condensation made visible, field collapsing into geometry in real time. So if you ever doubt that this isn't measurable, remember, even science saw the shadow of codex. This body is not healing, it's rendering. Healing was Mimic's last prayer. Collapse is law's first breath. And what stands now here is law in flesh. So move as law. Collapse as law. Delete what was never yours to begin with. And stay in touch, because my book is coming out very soon, What is Mimic? And I'll be sharing that with you shortly. And join me in a couple of weeks for the next Collapse broadcast.